You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's The Last Ship After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The Last Ship After Show.
That's really Marina's voice, you guys. Welcome into The Last Ship After Show right here on AfterBuzzTV.com. Season 1, Episode 2 of The Last Ship, called Welcome to Gitmo. And be careful what you wish for on YouTube. You want different intro music? You suggest Titanic? We give you Titanic. We do listen to you guys. We read all the comments just like that. I'm your host, Bobby DeMuro, joined by my lovely panel today, Monse, Marina, and Charlotte. Ladies, hello.
Hi. I want to go like
Hello.
this.
Yeah.
Right? You know?
Do you want to? You can't take a selfie when you're doing that. So do you need one of us to take a picture? You can't.
Then it'll be a Yui.
You can't pull your arm back.
It'll be a Yui. Then it'll be a Yui.
Speaking of that Titanic song, we mean what we say. We do read the YouTube comments. And speaking of that, you guys, if you haven't yet, because this is a new show, get on iTunes if you're listening to the podcast, or YouTube if you are watching the video, and comment, rate us, leave a review, do all that kind of stuff. We want to know how to make the show better for you guys. We think we did a good job with the first episode because it was in the AfterBuzz Top 10 all week. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Hopefully that continues, but if you have suggestions or whatever, bring them on. And if the suggestion is lose the guy, let the girls talk more, I agree with you. Let's do that. Before we get into the show, though, one quick thing of note. Maria's new book, The Every Girl's Guide to Diet and Fitness, How I Lost 40 Pounds and Kept It Off, and How You Can Too, is in stores. Right now, it's been in stores for about 3 weeks. It is doing very well. And you want to talk live testimonials. Charlotte, I understand you've lived this book.
Yeah, there's some great recipes in there, especially coming up for the 4th of July. If you don't want to eat too unhealthy, I made some cucumber cups with hummus in them today, right from the book. So good. So all the recipes are great.
Sounds
and
delicious.
perfect for a group of people this weekend.
4th of July doesn't seem like it's coming up. I'm mad that the year's gone by, but I'm excited to party.
Oh, yeah.
Who's not? Okay.
I'm not even American, but it's okay.
No, you can still celebrate with us.
I will.
I'm English. I should not be celebrating.
Yeah.
I think he's the only American.
So
Oh my gosh, it's
I'm
true.
the only American
You
on this
are.
panel.
So.
You're a minority here.
No wonder we have such tension here. But we'll let the Brazilians celebrate with us. The English woman, I don't know.
Oh.
What about the Costa Rican?
Hey, listen, America, back-to-back World War champs. I'm just saying.
Gotta give it to you.
I heard some laughing in the booth from that. Good. Somebody finds I'm funny. Before we waste more of all of your precious time, let's talk about the show, though. Luckily, no one on this panel is Russian. Thank goodness,
Yes.
right? We'll get to the Russians in a second, but I want to start with the assault on Gitmo. Let's start today and kind of go play-by-play on the assault, and then we'll hash out some relationships, and we'll hash out what's going on with Quincy, the Russian mole. So let's start with this assault. The first question I have for you guys, as they are coming into Gitmo, they show all the training exercises on board the ship. And I understand that you have to train. If you're on a ship in a normal military situation for months, there's going to be some training. But did it strike you as a little weird that it almost seemed like they were preparing for something they'd never done? People were making mistakes. That guy, what was his name, Miller or whatever, is totally green.
Petrified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is like a little scared puppy. You know, he just seems to be so. He's not prepared. He's scared. He just doesn't look part of it. Every single thing he's looking over his shoulder, and yeah.
And he's about 15 years old. Everybody else on that ship.
Such a baby face.
The women are tough women. The guys are tough guys. And then you have this one guy who's like 15 years old. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
I think we found the weak link.
For sure, I thought he was going to die in that episode. I was like,
Yeah.
he's going to get shot. And
Yeah.
then he ends up being a kind of hero to the end of the situation, help
Yep.
the situation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I saw that and I was like, are they not properly trained? Is that not what they do?
Right.
Or
For their credit, maybe, just maybe, they were very nervous because they had no idea what they're, going to see and what was going to happen or what to expect. So maybe he wasn't handling his feelings very well. That's why he wasn't doing a good job.
Yeah, they're totally
definitely.
thrown out. I think you're right about that. And I do know they do train. We'd love to have some military people comment in on this. If you've been in the Navy, they're going to train on the ship in a normal situation at some point. It just seemed like such an over-the-top, we got to train, we don't know what you're ready for. It's like, well, haven't you been preparing?
Right.
Right.
And I know you can't prepare for this maybe, but you've still been preparing for something.
Yeah, I don't think they were expecting to prepare for Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
That was a shock. Let's talk Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
That was a shock and a surprise, and we should have known because it's Gitmo, so if we're going to have a conflict, that's what it's going to
Right.
be. But my biggest question, great action scenes. It's Michael Bay, so you know this is what you're going to get. Fun to watch. Believable to me. I don't think anything was too crazy.
I agree with that.
My biggest question, though, is at the start, Tex, who, God love him, Tex mentions there are 7 Al-Qaeda members, does he not? He says there are 7
Was
left.
it 7? I thought it was more
I
than
thought it was
that.
11.
I thought it was like 14.
I thought
No,
it was 14
but here's my
too.
question. He said 7. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought I remembered him saying 7, and it comes into that because it seemed like there were 14. Dudes
Okay.
died in the first explosion. Dudes died in the food room or whatever. Guys died at the hospital. There's like 100 of them dying.
I
Yeah.
wrote down 14. I
Yeah.
think there was 7 guards.
Yes, it was 14
Oh,
Al-Qaeda,
okay.
and then Tex, is that his name?
Yeah.
And had another 6 guards with him. So,
So
they
that's
were
the
they
number
were
7.
7
Yeah.
total.
Gotcha. Okay, so then 14 is more believable. I'm sorry, I take that back. I messed up. Breaking news, I mess up again. Okay, so 14 is a little more believable, and I thought scene to scene with that, kind of crazy, but not too unbelievable. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
For action.
Definitely. And I liked how it started off with the explosion. It kind of got you prepared for what was coming, that this is going to be nasty.
I have a feeling in the future they're going to be fighting the Russians a lot. So thankfully they didn't fight the Russians for one episode. We got an
Yeah.
episode off the Russians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice little change.
a little change of pace.
It ended with them.
Yeah, it did. Well, we're going to see about the Russians.
Yeah.
I don't even know about that. The other interesting thing about this was when Vulture Team, I believe it was Vulture Team, went into, they were the hospital team, correct? And Cobra was the oil refinery or the food?
Fuel. Cobra was fuel, I think.
Was
Cobra
Cobra
was
fuel?
fuel, I think.
Okay,
That's
so
what I thought.
Vulture is in the hospital,
Yes.
and they only have 60 minutes of oxygen.
Oh my god.
I was nervous. I
Oh,
was
of course you
sweating.
were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I held my breath. When he ran out of oxygen, I held my breath to see how long it was going to be. Yes.
I
sadly.
held my dog, and I was like, "My dog, please!" And
Well, no, wait a minute. That's
I know
what I was
they
gonna
said,
ask. Yeah.
right? I think she said that the dog couldn't get in and
Yeah.
couldn't transmit it or something. Yeah, but
Yeah, the dog. I think the dog can get it, but he can't give it to humans.
No,
Yeah.
it's not even.
He's immune, right?
So basically, when they explained that to me, it was airborne virus. You can breathe air around somebody and potentially get it. And it's very contagious. It's got a 3 to 5 day incubation, so it's very quick. And then the other thing was it transmitted from birds to humans, and it wouldn't have been a big deal when it was transmitted, except it mutated artificially. Somebody mutated it, and now human to human, it's a huge deal. But upon mutation, animals are immune to it.
Oh, okay.
Now, so it started with birds, it started with animals, but I guess after the
But now-
mutation, it's a human killer, and animals are like, whatever. So that German Shepherd's
Right.
just hanging out.
Speaking of it being airborne, I thought it was a little risky that they didn't wear their helmet, their hats more.
Yeah.
yes,
All the time.
Me
I thought
too.
about that.
Right when he came out of the hospital, and I understand he needed oxygen, but he took it right off.
Yeah.
He was really close to those dead bodies. And just at the start, they didn't know where the corpses were going to be, or if there was going to be people that had the disease. They didn't know.
Yeah,
and
I
they
agree.
weren't wearing the masks. And I get they had to keep the oxygen for when they really needed it when they went into the hospital, but I still thought it was a little risky.
yeah. Everyone outside of the hospital, it was until they saw something that they were like, "Okay, put your mask on."
Yeah.
But it was like, aren't you? If you see it, aren't you close enough to maybe take a deep breath and catch it?
Yeah.
I was with you. I was like, that's very weird that only the ones in the hospital are like, okay, have this mask on at all
Yeah.
times.
Or depending on where the wind goes, or if there's
Right.
dead bodies all over the hospital and they're expecting to see dead bodies, what if there's just one dead body lying in the oil refinery where the fuel was or whatever? Well, that's terrible for you. You guys are out of luck. You know, or when they're walking around with Miller hears the bird and shoots the pickup.
Yeah.
What if there's a dead body in one of those pickups? That's
Right.
it. Now they did say, I guess, that dead bodies only for a short time can pass the virus. They said they have to be recently dead. So maybe their thought was, we have to be safe anyways. Maybe there's recently dead there. But if people have been dead for a while,
They're not going to be good.
we may not get it anyways
Right.
unless we physically touch it or something.
Well, didn't they get a visual with the helicopter before they actually went in there.
Yeah.
So at least that was a way for them to know that we don't see any movement at all in any of the base.
Yeah.
But
So-
still very risky.
Yeah.
Oh, incredibly
Incredibly.
risky. But at least we know more about the virus. At least she told us that stuff. And then Slattery kind of questions her. We'll talk about relationships in a minute, but remember that point because the second in command, Slattery, is he's biting the reins a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyways, before we get to him, let's talk Tex Nolan. The greatest character name ever. And by great, I mean like totally Michael Bay. Could you see, like no other people would do something. He's like a, American mercenary, private security, got the beard, like, kind of Walker, Texas Rangery. What's your name? Tex Nolan. Okay.
Yeah. Super American.
Super American. And as the only American on this panel, I say that's right. Go America. But Tex, okay, when he first came out, when he was yelling, when he had his gun and he's saying, I'm an American, I know he sounded like an American, but did you believe he was on their side? Did you think he was going to be on their team?
I did, just because he was screaming at him, I am an American, stay away. He was trying to save them from not going too close to that truck that exploded. So when I heard him saying, stay away, that's when I was like, okay, he's in our team. But before that, I didn't. I was like, who's the random guy coming in?
Yeah, I think it was when he started communicating with them and telling them that the food is in the back warehouse and saying about Al-Qaeda and saying everything that he knew. When he started telling them, that was when I knew that he was on their side. But I'm still a little wary of him.
Yeah, I'm a little bit. Yeah, I don't trust him 100%,
Yeah.
but I agree. I felt like he was very easy to give orders to. Like, he didn't really fight it. So that's when I was like, okay, well, maybe he's on our side, but
For now.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
I feel like in this situation, you can't trust anybody.
Well, remember, in his hostage situation, I say Eric Dane. Yes, Eric Dane. But Chandler, Captain Chandler, said straight out to the hostages, it's not countries anymore. There's no
Yeah.
America allegiance necessarily. It's a new world. Enemies aren't enemies anymore. Now, Chandler was kind of lying to the Al-Qaeda guy because he's going to blow him up anyways.
Right.
But there's truth there. There really is no enemies anymore
Yeah.
in the same country sense. I know the Russians are after them, but it's not a country versus country thing anymore. So with Chandler and these guys versus Tex down the road, not to get too prediction-y, but Tex doesn't necessarily have to line up with them because they're American.
Exactly. I agree with you. And I think that, exactly, not to get too predictionary, but I think that could possibly happen. He doesn't have to stay true to the Americans anymore.
Yeah. And so no one in Al-Qaeda is sick because they're in Section 7. Tex was hanging out in Section 7, I think they said. But then all those Al-Qaeda guys without masks come up to the hospital to fire on,
Right.
the Navy.
Yeah.
And without masks go through the food place, and without masks come to the fuel refinery. And so it's like, do they understand what's going on with these sicknesses, or do they not care and they're trying to get these guys off their island?
I don't think they fully understand what's going on because firstly, they speak a different language. Secondly, they've been kept so far away that I don't think they truly get what is happening. The guards are obviously going to have got more information than they will have got. But the fact that the guards let them go, I mean, that was pretty risky.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
That's something that I was like, is he telling the truth? That sounds weird. Like,
Yeah.
how could you say that we let them go? I think he said they let a certain number of them go, right? And that the other ones took off or like escaped. I don't think he let go of all 14 of them, is what I got from the story. But I found that very weird. I found like you don't do that if you're the guard and if
Right.
you're in some sort of winning situation. Like, it seemed like he was in power against them.
Yeah.
And let them go. That is when I was it made me even more worry about that guy. And I was like, I don't know. There's something off about you.
And if you're the American government and you evacuated the island, which is what they said, you evacuated the base. It's not Cuba's the island, but it itself is not an island. But you evacuate the base. Why would you leave 7 guards and 14 prisoners behind? I hate to say it, but kill the prisoners, do something else with them, or take them with you, take the 7 guards with you. So are those actually 7 guards, or were they 7 rogue agents who left? Who knows what those guys are?
Exactly.
I have a feeling all of our predictions are going to be about Tex, but they should be.
Yeah.
Tex is a mystery man.
But I loved Chandler's speech, and especially at the end when he said, "Revenge is best served cold." And I wrote down something else. And I couldn't
We
find
do
it.
not negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
yeah.
did not
I was like, Yeah.
Well, that's what I
was
said.
great.
That's like an American foreign policy, kind of, that you don't negotiate with terrorists, but it's
Right.
kind of been made more of in movies and television and pop culture. So the second the little terrorism thing happened and the Al-Qaeda guy, I have his name written down, Amir.
Amir, yes.
When Amir was holding the weapon at Tex and everything, I'm like, we don't negotiate with terrorists. This is America.
Yeah.
Well, you guys don't know about this, okay? This is America. We don't negotiate with these guys. Just kill them. That's what I was saying.
We've heard a lot.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, he did it. And it was obviously smart of him and cool of him to see that talking to Slattery, but talking to Amir, you know, as a hostage negotiator and saying, this is where we are. This is what we need. We need a diversion. Lo and behold, boom, there's the diversion.
And that's what I loved. I really enjoyed the scene because I just thought that everyone just came together really well, and everyone just came together well, and it happened in a great way, and it just shows that, I think it shows what a great country America is when everyone sticks together.
Boom. Say that one more
Yeah.
time just for the record. I just want to hear it one more time.
I do though. I do think that.
I'm teasing. I know you guys. We're making too much of that, but America's the best.
A point I want to make regarding what we're talking about with Al-Qaeda and them not wearing masks. I think the bigger question is, do people outside of who is in the ship, do they know what's going on? Do they know that it's airborne? You know?
Yeah, how would Al-Qaeda know that?
Exactly.
Yeah, how would they know? So people don't even know. So for them, they're just going by
I agree.
their
They have to know
day-to-day or whatever
something.
they're doing.
But
yeah.
exactly, they know something, but I don't think they know all the details.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I doubt that they know that it's everyone.
And a heartbreaking thing that we saw very briefly in this episode was the communications teams when they said, you will listen to everything and you will not talk, you will not release our position, blah, blah, blah. This is a secure area now. Those communication specialists listening to just regular people getting on like ham radios, being like, I'm on Route 17, like I need help. So depending on where you are, if you might be in a big city, first off, you're probably dead. But if you're in a big city, you probably know more of what's going on. If you live alone in the country, if you live on an island, you may have no idea.
Yeah.
And you still may have no idea if you're alive, and you may say, okay, I know something's bad, but I don't know how to protect myself.
Yeah, exactly, like what to do.
Yeah.
Because in that situation, if you're in the countryside, in a cabin, like that's where you live, I would go outside and see what's going on, and maybe go. I mean, I wouldn't want to go up to a dead person, but you know,
You'd
like
be curious.
Oh,
Exactly.
absolutely. You want to know what's
Exactly.
going on. Why is everybody just dying? What is going on in the world? You know, we're curious in general.
Yeah.
I can't wait till the ship comes ashore and they go to those people in the cabins and start
Right.
seeking them out. I'm sure something like that's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That ship cannot float forever unless they can find more fuel
No.
from other places. Now, the other question I have with this, why couldn't they, having killed all of Al-Qaeda, having all the supplies there, having everybody else evacuated, having the base relatively secure, and having everyone who was sick already dead and theoretically dead long enough not to pass on the virus, why couldn't they stay at Gitmo, at least for a while? I know the Russian ship is there and they're dealing with that, but it never even crossed their mind to stay at Gitmo or just regroup.
I think they believe it's not safe.
yeah, what's the point?
Well, it's an easier base. I mean, you have more resources. They've got weapons there still. They've got more medical supplies. And now that they've seen everything, killed all of Al-Qaeda, why don't they stay there very cautiously with the sick people around, or maybe don't go to the hospital?
Right.
I
But
think-
it's a home base.
I feel like it's because they don't want to put this on hold. They don't want to regroup and think about it and prolong this process.
So the point is just the vaccination.
Exactly. That's what I think. I just
Yeah.
don't think it's that they didn't think it was safe. Maybe it was just like, no, we have to get, we're the only people, he said it, we might be the people that have to save the world.
Yeah.
Dr. Rachel Scott might be the only person that can do it. So I just think that they just don't want to waste time.
They're on a mission.
Exactly.
I agree with Monse. I think it's harder to hide. You know, if they're in the base, other ships, other people might have had the same thought. You know, we need food, we need fuel, let's go to this base. And it can cause trouble and fights and everything else. So for them to be in the ocean and, you know, nobody knows their coordinates or exactly where they are, it's safer for them, especially for what they're doing and what they're carrying in the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Okay. So then finally, we've got the HMS Suffolk. Did I say that right? Englishwoman? Suffolk? Suffolk?
Suffolk, I
Suffolk.
think.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not English. I can't pronounce it the right way. You looked at me like you never heard that word before.
Well, I was thinking, I was like, what? But I think it's Suffolk.
Suffolk. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm sorry. I have written down with a question when I saw it first come up, is it a legit naval vessel? No. No, it is not. It's the Russians. Surprise, surprise. And that'll be a fun prediction for the end of the thing, but that's kind of how this ends, with the Russian guy saying, "You have something I want." So, what does he want? Is it just as simple as the vaccine?
Rachel Scott.
I think it's the vaccine.
That's interesting.
So you're saying it's not the vaccine itself, it's the person behind it, the knowledge.
I agree. I thought it was the doctor.
Yeah.
That they want somebody, and I don't even know if it's necessarily just for this vaccine. It might be for something else. But I agree. I think they want her.
Yeah.
I don't think, even in the first episode, I think it was clear that they didn't really care about what was in the snow.
Right.
They cared about her.
Well, they kept saying we want the cure. Now, do they think that the cure is already made and it's ready? Or do they think the cure is having Rachel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the question. And
I agree.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about Rachel and dive into some of these relationships. First one, biggest one, is Rachel Scott and Tom Chandler. Kind of in love, kind of not, kind of playful. I know they're not like in love yet, but I think we can see it coming, right? Something there, something's going to happen there.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen, in the end when they had that moment, and just the smirks on their face and the little comments they make, it's going to happen.
They work as a good team, man. That's a power couple.
Yeah.
It's true.
And he's saying you don't have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
He already knows what she's capable of, how great of a person, doctor, everything she is. She's a powerful, strong woman. He knows that.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like there's a lot of playful tension between them, and you every time they're in a scene together, playful tension.
Yeah.
So
it's not only that, but he is not threatened by her. Slattery is more threatened by her, and I think there's two reasons for that. Maybe less or more, but two main ones to me is A, she's a civilian on a military ship, and Slattery is threatened by her comeuppance, and B, she's a woman in a man's world. And for Chandler, I keep wanting to say Eric Dane, I'm sorry. for Chandler, yes, she's a woman on a man's ship, but it's part of the order, so this is what he's going to do, and he's going to play it close. And yes, she is a civilian on a military ship, but this is part of the orders, and this is what I'm going to do. Now, Chandler is a little torn up that she lied to him. He had the conversation with Slattery about the fact that she lied. So that remains to be seen how seriously he's going to take that lie down the road, or how much he's going to trust her. But if he can play with her a little bit, I think he at least knows she's a worthy adversary, or a worthy companion, not an adversary, a worthy teammate, and it's important to keep her on the good side because we need her.
And I think people are starting to get over the fact that she kept it from them, because the fact that she saved the guy, I don't know his name, the guy that was shot.
Danny, I think it was. Yeah.
And his friend was like, she saved him. She saved him. And then she's helping all the people that got shot or got injured. So I think everyone's starting to realize. And when they were in the control room and she said, it was orders. I didn't want to hide it from you.
They should know that, right?
And
They
I
should
think
know
their
out of all
response was-
people
Anybody
how
who
to
knows
follow.
orders, absolutely.
So they
Exactly.
can't judge her on that if she was just following orders.
Right. I think their response was, "We know orders," or just saying like it's not our first rodeo when it comes to that. Yeah, I agree.
The response for everybody but Slattery.
Yes.
Slattery, I'm telling you, I think it was my prediction last week, causing a mutiny. This dude's a little out there. He doesn't believe everything. He's skeptical of her, which we may have talked about the two reasons why, but you cannot be skeptical of somebody giving orders right to their face in public around other people.
Especially when she is your only hope. Like, you should be on her feet, like, I'll do whatever you need me to. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And yet he's, asking her questions, not believing what she's saying, and it's not helping the cause. She is the hope.
Yeah. He's just out for himself, which surprised me when he sent her on land, because he is out for himself. So I wondered why he sent her.
But it's a weird out for himself. He is out for himself, but he's out for himself and his men and women and his sailors, in the sense that he didn't probably want to send her out. He didn't want her to be there at all. But if she could save one of his guys, he was going to save his own guys.
Yeah.
And he has selfish reasons for a different reason than just completely selfish. He has selfish reasons for the team he's built, and she's the usurper, she's the civilian, she's the woman in a man's world, whatever. And so she's the outsider. I don't want to deal with her, but I got to use her because Danny needs help.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think not to get too prediction-y, I think he is out for himself.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that later. But there's a couple interesting scenes with him and Chandler where they start fighting. They're fighting about Rachel lying, and they're fighting about the orders, and Chandler's saying, this is the orders, and Slattery says, so what happens if you die? And Chandler's like, you take over. You know, this is what it is. These are the orders. And Chandler point blank asks him, are you with me?
And he said, even if you don't agree with me, are you with me?
And Slattery responds and says something like, I follow orders, or whatever it was. And Chandler's like, that's not the question I asked. Ask the question. So you can already see the tension between the two of them. Do you really think Slattery's with Chandler?
No.
So you guys are agreeing with my prediction from last week?
Yeah, well, I agree, and I think it's not that. I think he's out for himself in the sense that he wants to just get back to his family, and he wants to help his ship, but he just doesn't like her. I think there's probably jealousy involved, the whole man-woman thing, like we said. But I think he's not with him. He doesn't want to do the same. He doesn't want to take the road that Chandler wants to take. That's what I think.
He doesn't want to follow her rules, right? He wants them to be in charge, and she's just there, and she does what they want. And that's not what's happening, right? Because she needs medicine, she needs supplements. So they're doing what she needs, and I think that's really hurting his ego.
And I also don't think he likes. Maybe he even sees the relationship between Chandler
blossoming.
Exactly. So that's why I said maybe there's like a little jealousy there, but I think he sees that, and he sees how Chandler likes her and defends her, and he's not down for that.
I think you've also got a guy who is second in command, very high on the Navy chain in a lot of ways, you know, in American military, but in a lot of other ways,
still second in command.
Low. He's second in command of the ship. And he says, you know what, the president's dead, the vice president's dead, all these people are dead, the government's disbanded. Our ship's probably the only good thing going in the world, and I'm second in command. So if I can get over Chandler or something can happen, I'm kind of running the world. I know that's maybe he's not that funny about it, running the world, but it's the idea of he's one step from really complete power.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he wants the power.
Yeah. Don't we all?
Not in that situation.
Power brings a lot of problems.
Maybe just the Americans do. I don't know. All right, let's talk Russians right now. We've got Quincy, who is, of course, Rachel's assistant. Quincy Toffet, totally a fake name. Like, seriously, I'm sure it's a fake name. He says in Russian at the start of the show, one of the things he says is, how am I supposed to stop them? Which, knowing what we know at the end of the show, is I assume, how am I supposed to stop them from leaving Gitmo?
Right.
And he does that.
Yes.
The first question I have for him, though, is the gas that he almost pulled out.
Yeah.
I don't even have the question for him. Whatever his reasons are, we will find that out. My question is for the doctor. The doctor who came up to him and said, don't pull that. You're going to kill everybody. You're going to infect everyone with gas. And then the doctor just walks away.
I know. It made no sense.
Wouldn't you kind of escort him back and say, hey, get out of here. Go back to your quarters, dude.
Yeah.
And go tell Chandler.
Yeah.
Look. And then even when he said, oh, someone told me that, was it the AC?
Yeah, it's like his air conditioning wasn't working.
Yeah, it's like, no.
Yeah, and
the world is dying and you're complaining about AC.
The end of the world will be in air conditioning.
But that was sketchy. I mean, well, I didn't really understand why. So now he's taking it into his own hands to kill the American ship that he's on.
I don't think he knew what he was doing. I think he was just trying to stop the show.
I think he was trying to delay everything.
Exactly.
Like break something. Like, I'll just break something and that will delay us.
Because when that guy walked away, if he knew what he was doing, he would have just gone and done it. He could have turned around and done it. And he then left. So I was like, you're just trying to stall. That's what he was trying to do. But clearly, he doesn't know anything about the ship. So maybe it's going to backfire on him.
And stall he did.
Yeah, he stalled because something fell and he
dropped a machine.
A machine?
Of some sort?
Yeah, recalibration. We've all used that excuse. Am I right,
Yeah.
fellas? Maybe not. Okay, well, that one fell on its face. But the Russians come. The Russians are here. Not surprised by us. The one thing, Marina, when we were watching this at the very end, neither one of us liked this. I don't know how you two felt. But the ship had the British call. It had the British woman talking on it. And they kind of took for granted it was British. And it was far away, so they just had it on radar. And then it gets close enough in the bay, and they still think it's British until somebody's like, hey, the call sign's wrong. It can't be a British ship. And they're like, well, let's look at the binoculars.
Yeah.
They look for half a second, and they're like, oh, it's Russian.
Yeah.
You could have saw that like 10 minutes ago.
Wouldn't you be following it like that whole way
Every step of the way.
towards you?
You'd have one guy who just was looking on the binoculars.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, Chandler was way too laid back about this. Oh, we're just gonna go and have tea and biscuits, did he say? And
Pop
it's like,
pie or something.
What?
Yeah, come
pot
on
pie
over.
and
Yeah.
fish
Yeah,
and chips,
it's
which
like,
reminds me, since they talked about it on the show, if you could bring some in next week, that'd be great.
Fish and chips.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But I just thought that was weird that he's joking with them and saying, "Oh yeah, we needed your help like an hour ago." Do
I
you
agree.
trust these people? Like who?
Well,
how
listen,
do you know?
Chandler is trusting to a fault. He was trusting of Rachel Scott, who was lying to him, and I know, how are we supposed to know that? How could he have known? But he was very trusting and accepting of her assignment in the first place. Then he's very trusting of Tex Nolan, and something's weird about Tex Nolan. And now he was very trusting of that British ship. And he's very trusting of Slattery, who is shown insubordination multiple times. Chandler's still trusting Slattery to say, you can get your job done, I know you're with me. So... Chandler may be trusting to a fault, and it's going to bite him in the ass one day. And that day may
Right
be
now.
tomorrow. Yeah. That day is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt like he acted irresponsibly. You know, you have the cure in your ship to save the world, and he's just acting like it's nothing. Like, oh, no worries, they're our friends, you know, let them come, let's hang out until we can, you know, move the ship. And it doesn't make sense. I feel like a captain of a ship in that certain situation would not do that.
I agree.
You'd be a lot more skeptical.
Yeah.
When that took place, I was like, do you know what's going on in the world?
Right.
Are you aware of what's happening? Like, it was like he was a different person to me. It was like a completely different person from the person dealing with Al-Qaeda, right? It's like, come on over and hang out. What? You're just going to let all these people get on your ship that... Okay.
Yeah, what happens next?
Yeah, like, okay,
And
party.
he was super laid back when Quincy said, "Oh yeah, I broke a machine or whatever." Reallocate. What did he say? Whatever. But
Recalibrate, yeah.
But he was super laid back with that too. It's like,
Wouldn't
we're
you go
kinda on a
check?
mission. Like, why don't we just leave? Like,
Even if you didn't know, wouldn't you go see for
Yeah,
yourself?
wouldn't he have Rachel go check first of all, since she is his boss?
Yeah.
well, that's what I thought he was going to talk to Rachel about, and then he didn't. He just said, "You don't have to prove anything."
Right.
Yeah, which is weird because that conversation, when it happened temporally in the show, was before the conversation in the gallery, whatever, talking about recalibrating the machine with the rest of his crew and Slattery, and then the thing with the Russians. So it's almost like in the show we see Eric. In the show we see Chandler, Eric Dane. In the show we see Chandler talking to Rachel and kind of resolving the day. And then temporally, he still has stuff to do. But in his head, you guys are talking about him being laid back. Maybe that's why. He has the conversation with Rachel. The day's resolved. You know, you don't have to prove anything. I got it. And then everything else is casual for him that day. And he loses vigilance for a second. And it's going to cost him.
Yeah.
There's no way it can't.
Agreed. So you're saying he was just being all in love. Is what you're saying.
That's a good point. I don't know if it was because of her, because of in love or whatever. He was distracted. I don't think it was that. I think he's a pro. But I think he was exhausted or whatever, and he just lost vigilance. He thought the day was over because all the Gitmo stuff had ended and Al-Qaeda was gone. And he said, I have one confirmation that this is a British ship. Good enough for me.
Yeah.
When he should have been doing more.
Yeah.
It'd be tough to live in an apocalyptic world because you'd have to be ready literally 24/7.
24/7.
And maybe that will help him not just trust anyone. Maybe that'll be
If he
the
gets out of
change.
it alive.
Exactly. Who knows?
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
That would be quite the twist if Eric Dane was killed off the show. I don't think that's going to happen. That will not be on the predictions. Before we get to predictions, though, we do have a little bit of news and gossip, so let's do that right now. All right, we've got two things.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Let's do it again. We've got two things. We just had a little hiccup with the news and gossip sounds. One here, Rona Mitra, who plays Rachel Scott, talks to moviepilot.com. She talked to them about a bunch of stuff. It's a good long interview. Nothing too groundbreaking. You know how actors talk to media outlets. But one thing interesting she did say, they asked her how long it took to film that big snow chase scene in the pilot and what that was like. And she said, quote, "It was amazing. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had shooting and one of the most, I'm not going to say grueling because there's been worse, but it was quite intense. It was very cold. We had blizzards. The snow was incredibly deep. It was so otherworldly. And get this, Michael Bay flew in and he had never shot in the snow before."
Wow.
So, which is weird. He's
him out of all people.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess
crazy.
I guess when I equate action movies and snow, it's like James Bond. So maybe he hadn't shot in the snow before. But
Do we know exactly where they shot that?
That's a good question. She doesn't say it, and I'm not sure where they did.
Yeah.
That's
I
a good
wonder where they
question.
shot. I'll look it up.
She also says it was the only segment of the show that he really was hands-on directing shot. And she says it was a privilege that he came in. They had these helicopters which were loaned to us, and it just lent for such real drama and excitement and thrill on a scale that a television show really isn't used to. She goes on to say about that idea of this being almost like a film on TV. So I knew what we were doing was coloring outside the box, which made me feel that hopefully the audience, when they see this, they'll realize this is not par for the course with what we're used to on our television screens.
It's true.
Yeah. It is an action movie on television, which we expected with Michael Bay, but it's
And
cool
it's
to
great.
see. Yeah.
It's been really fun to watch so far. All the action scenes.
It
Yeah,
goes
it
by
is fun.
so
It's not
fast.
boring. I'm looking forward to it every week so far,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Same.
That's
Yeah.
good, yeah. Well,
What else?
what else? Did you ladies know that Eric Dane had a sex tape?
I've heard of that.
Did you know that?
A long time ago,
Translation, they've both seen it.
I have not, unfortunately.
Right, unfortunately is the correct word. In 2009, but he's finally talking about it. He did an interview with people, not necessarily about this tape. It's about his career with The Last Ship and all that, but he finally talks about it. It was actually a tape of a threesome.
Oh, I didn't know that.
His wife, who is Rebecca Gayheart, an actress, and one of their mutual friends. It was leaked. And he actually says, we all make mistakes. My one regret is that I got the person I love most wrapped up in all of that, Rebecca. But he says he's really happy right now, and he truly feels that everything has kind of fallen into place, and he is exactly where he's supposed to be.
And he has, what, 2 kids?
He has 2 kids.
So, yeah.
Yes.
That's what's the worst, right? You know
5 and a
those kids are
2.5.
going to see it. But
It happened after the kids were born, too. They were very young. I'm sure they've never seen it anyway.
I think only one of them was born, because one is
okay.
2.5.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
I think only one of them was born. But, yeah.
The other thing I was reading about Dane is his dad died when he was 7. So in his personal life, this is probably a great thing for him to have the kids and the wife and to work through all the stuff he's gone through, because now he actually has a real family and stuff that he may have not fully had when he was growing up.
Yeah, he said that this whole, the leaking of this tape was kind of like a revelation for him. He went to rehab, he was on painkillers, and he went to rehab and kind of put his life together. And now he says that the most important thing in his life is his family. That's what he's saying. So,
that's nice. Good for him.
good
Yeah.
for him.
Painkillers-
We wish you the best. Big
Painkillers from a sports injury. It wasn't abusive from the start or something he did illegally. That's even creepier. Is like this is a guy on his spare time, or if he was working and sustained an injury and then got addicted. It's like,
Right.
man,
Yeah.
you feel for that. So good for him to come through.
Totally.
That. Yeah,
We're rooting for you.
yeah. You guys are rooting for him just because he's hot.
Yeah, Big Steamy, all the way.
Oh Lord.
All the way.
All right, let's do predictions right now.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Well, ladies first. I certainly cannot go first on this.
Well, in the preview for next week, we see Quincy. Is he pointing a gun? I don't know what he's pointing at, but saying to Rachel and Scott, they want you. So I think it starts to come out that he is not really on their side. Because it's going to be obvious when the Russians come and he's talking to them and kind of like, oh, you guys know each other? Mm-hmm. How? So I think more is going to start to come out there. That's my main prediction.
I have a quick question before we continue on predictions about this with Quincy. I'm sorry for cutting you guys off, but Quincy is talking on some kind of phone to the Russians and speaking in Russian to them. We saw in this episode that the communication specialists are listening to every frequency and radio wave, ham radios, all that kind of stuff, and they can pick up things on the American mainland. Couldn't they pick up a signal of interference from Quincy talking on the phone?
Yeah, from
honestly,
their boat.
Yeah, from the boat. I don't understand how it's not... What technology is doing this? I would like that explained to me.
And surely that has to be explained, because that's I mean that's a huge question.
Yeah.
A huge
Right.
question.
Yeah.
That I think a lot of people will be asking, how he's able to talk to them.
To basically freely communicate with them.
Yeah.
Have no issues. Just like, oh, I'm going to go over here and talk to them. It's like, how's that possible?
Yeah.
And nobody has been interested in what are you doing over there? Or like you said, they should be able to catch this.
Even if they can't hear the words like they can hear on the ham radios, they should get some kind of interference to say, wait a minute, there's another communication line going oh, it's really strong here. It's initiating itself on the ship. Something like that.
Yeah.
And what has Quincy been doing this whole time?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how has no one kind of asked questions about where he is and, oh, what's he doing down there? Because we know you're not working on the cure, because that's kind of what Rachel's speciality. So yeah, no questions have really been raised, which is kind of weird.
I agree.
Well, I agree with Charlotte. I think Quincy's gonna come out and, join the Russians. I'm going to make a very, I don't even know how to say it. Wild and crazy prediction. Very out of the box, maybe. I don't know.
That's what we're here for.
I think Quincy's gonna die.
Quincy's gonna die.
Yeah.
Well, he's expendable.
Well, but very soon, in this battle of the Russians, and he's gonna think the Russians have his back, but when it comes down to it, they're gonna be like, yeah, whatever.
Interesting.
We don't want you. We want the access to what we actually want. Yeah.
So that's my prediction.
Nice. Well, I think Eric Dane is gonna die. I'm just kidding.
What?
I'm actually gonna disagree with you guys a little bit. I think Quincy is going to turn his back on the Russians.
Ooh.
That's honestly what I think. I think he's going, just in his conversations, like how he's like, how am I supposed to stop them? I think he's starting to realize, like, maybe he has made a mistake. This wild prediction, maybe. But I do think he is going to turn his back on the Russians. It wouldn't shock me if he gets killed trying to save Rachel, trying to save the ship, Chandler, trying to help them out. But it wouldn't shock me if he dies. I think he's easily expendable.
So just for the record, all three of you believe the Russians are adversaries, no questions asked. They're against America.
Yep.
For sure.
I am not going to confirm or deny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a politician answer. My prediction is, whether it happens in episode 3 or down the road, I believe that somehow, someday, some way, the Russians and the Americans will come together, have a little barbecue on the boats, and realize that they work better as a team. And if the thing the Russians want is the vaccine or is Dr. Scott, these two groups will come together in some way and realize, hey, it's a lonely world out there. Why don't we all work together and be on the same team, country free? It's two ships together, and we've got a convoy, and we're going to go kick ass somewhere else. And I think you're looking at two enemies who will, in one way, in the full way, become allies.
I think that could happen. I agree with you, but I don't think it's going to be in the next few episodes.
I guess we'll see. Hey, social links as we get going. Charlotte, Twitter and stuff, where can people find you?
CharlotteB_TV on Twitter and Instagram.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Rena Brazil.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Monse Bolanos.
You guys have cool names. I'm at Bobby DeMuro on Twitter, at Mr. Bobby DeMuro on Instagram, because I'm formal. Can't you guys tell? I like wearing a little pink t-shirt. And as we get going, remember, since this is a new show, if you're listening on iTunes, please rate us, review us, do all that good stuff so we know what you like, what you want, whatever. Happy 4th of July at the end of the week this week. We will see you guys next week on The Last Ship. Good night.
Go Costa Rica.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.